Welcome everyone. A very good morning. Hope you brought in your coffee. Before we dive into what is coming up as a really insightful and knowledge sharing session, I will just take about 5 minutes to give a little brief about HSMAI for those of you who may not be familiar with it. So HSMAI is primarily the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. We are a non-profit global association of the commercial professionals and the operational heads of hospitality industry, as well as the hotel partners. We were founded in 1927. We are largely a membership-driven organization, 7,000 members and counting from 41 countries worldwide. As a professional society, our endeavor is to focus on improving the knowledge, the skills of people working in or managing the commercial disciplines in hotels and resorts. So what does this membership get you? Let's see that. And as a HSMAI member, you get to have, recognition-wide certifications. It's a globally recognized certification, lends credibility worldwide. There's access to industry events that we organize. There are special member pricing and special benefits, market intelligence in the form of white papers, etc., on the latest trends, the best practices, as well as a repository of case studies for the benefit of all. We have been always the industry champion in identifying and communicating the trends in the hospitality industry. And we offer training, networking, and conference events for your career development. Currently, we are organizing events as we are present in 8 Asia Pacific markets, Singapore, China, Thailand, Australia, Indonesia, India, and the subcontinent, Japan, and our latest one, which is Korea. We are well known for our signature event, which is the Revenue Optimization Conference, which has been prevalent for the past few years, and we do it across the globe in different markets. It's part of our commercial strategy conference. This is a photo, a lot of happy faces from our last one that was held in Singapore. So you may want to block your dates for what's coming up next. We start in Singapore, 11th and 12th of May. We have one earmarked for India for 15th of June as of now, and the Korea one, which is slated for 23rd of June. I will also take a minute to talk about the foundation, which is basically the charity arm of HSMAI, and it is funded mainly by big hotel brands and legacy gifts from hoteliers. The mission of the foundation is primarily to elevate the overall caliber and the performance of sales, marketing, and revenue management professionals. And we do it by driving initiatives that will attract new talent, develop emerging talent, and also engage the existing talent. Somewhat similar to what the focus of this forum is about. We also have an academy, which, as I mentioned before, gives you access to global certifications in revenue management, in digital marketing, and we also have something called business acumen. Very, very pertinent for those migrating from other areas in hospitality to becoming general managers. It's a 10-month online program with 3 months of simulation training. So those of you who are interested in advancing your careers, do check this out. Please follow us on YouTube and the Academy also, which is with the links are given. Most of our recordings, all our knowledge sharing is done here. And now let me introduce you to our esteemed panel. We have quite a panel joining us. I will start with our speakers. Shelja Singh needs no introduction. She has been a passionate HR leader, well known in the industry, and has seen it through the trials and tribulations, known as a people's person and always focused on giving a great employee experience. We have Divya joining us. Thanks, Shelja. We have Divya joining us, who is currently the Vice President Commercial for Job Plus, which is a curated portal for the service industry. She's on a mission to building the largest assessed workforce portal and also rolling out an integrated learning platform for upskilling and talent development. Yogendra Agnihotri is the Senior Director, Human Resources for the Radisson Group for South Asia. He is responsible for talent capital of 108 properties across South Asia, and is well known for building a culture of empowerment leading to strong performance. And our moderator is none other than Mr. Dilip Puri, who is a well-known name in the hotel industry. He is currently the founder of the Indian School of Hospitality and well known by virtue of leading some of the most renowned hospitality brands in the world. And he also has the unique privilege of sharing the insights gathered and witnessing the changing landscape of our industry at very, very close quarters. Before I hand the floor over to Dilip, just a few housekeeping rules. Please use the Q&A button to post in your questions. You will need to be on full screen mode for that. And we will, of course, have some time at the end of our session to take in all the questions. So, guys, that was about HSMAI. Please join the mission. This is our link. Do take the time to explore and reach me if you have any questions on that. So thank you. And Mr. Puri, over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really nice to see a lot of participation in the webinar on a weekday morning. Thank you to my fellow panelists for joining this discussion as well. It's an interesting set of people we have here. HR practitioners of leading Indian hospitality brands and a leading global brand. So hopefully perspectives from both sides, because one of the common refrains in hospitality is that do cultures and the way people are seen differ between international global brands and Indian brands. COVID threw up a lot of conflict in how different companies, brands treated people. So it'll be good to get two perspectives on that. And then, of course, Divya is doing something very interesting. Most of you would know her partner and founder, Natwar Nagar, who's been a recruiter for the hospitality industry for the longest. I wouldn't be surprised if many people in the audience may have found jobs through Natwar over their careers as well. And what they're doing on the one end of the spectrum, on the skilling side, and what, let's say, we do as ISH on maybe developing the management side for hospitality professionals. So hopefully we'll have perspectives from that end as well. Couple of quick comments before I lead into our panelists. This topic on talent, if all of you have figured out in the last 2.5 years, has become really the hot topic. I mean, I remember attending any conference in 2019 or before, whether it was an investment conference, a marketing conference, it was all about business growth, market share, and those kind of things. Today, strangely, or perhaps appropriately, the first topic which most people want to address is about talent, and not so much about business and growth. And actually, our industry is just entering a very significant upcycle. Most economists will predict that the next 7 to 9 years will see the hospitality industry enter a completely new cycle of development. Today, there is finally a greater demand for hotel rooms and lesser supply. The supply-demand mismatch will take at least 3 to 5 years to be overcome. Many projects during COVID were shelved. Many hotels saw alternate purposes of use. And so that all spells good stuff for the industry in general, notwithstanding the fact that where are we going to find the talent? It's migrated out of our industry and is reluctant to come back. And we have to figure out what we're doing as an industry. And so I'm going to lead in with Shailaja first. I think the Oberoi Group has always been at the forefront of recognizing the people aspect, very strongly. We've had some great experiences for our students who come to intern with you, students who are now at OCLD. And since there's been so much of talk, Shailaja, and we continue to have these conversations, it'll be good to know what's actually happening on the ground. What are you as an organization, as a brand, as a hotel company in your properties? What are you actually doing? Whether it comes to pay parities, better work-life balance, how you're looking at talent, the strategic aspect. Share some of those insights with our audience. You need to take your mic up. Yeah, unmute yourself.
Sorry. Thank you so much. Yes, so a topic that you very rightly said, Dilip, it's been spoken about in practically every forum. For us, I think we personally looked at it, and I have personally looked at it, and as a three-pronged approach. One is the intent from the external world. How is it being viewed? What is the perception out there? And we've discussed this many times. We certainly need to up our game. We certainly need to change the perception of this being an industry which is long hours and less pay and less benefits. So that having been said, that's one key area that we looked at. And the reality is that about 40% less people have joined IHMs. The reality is that for the last 2 years, people haven't gone to colleges, and even those who are graduating now, there's a mismatch between what they think of hospitality and what actually hospitality or what hotel jobs really are, and the competence and the skill that they bring about. And also the reality is that out of that number, there is a significant amount which moves to other industries like retail and high-end luxury stores, etc. Now, having said all this, we've had to very quickly reorient ourselves. And when I say this, it's everybody who knows us and knows our group. We've been a stickler for what we believe, and we've stuck to it. But I think times have changed, and we've had to reorient ourselves. So we've looked at alternate sources of hiring, first of all, not to depend on IHMs. And I think the biggest learning for us has been that we've started looking at, and actually Divya is very much here as one of our partners, reskilling and skilling people from alternate sources, which would traditionally not be our source to pick up people as associates. And that's been the certification courses, programs where we do with Skill India Council, be it the Hospitality Skill India Council, or programs that we do with the Job Plus or other industry partners, sharing a similar mindset. And that's a gap that we very quickly identified, and we've started going to them. So hopefully anything between 100 to 200 people at one, undergoing 3 months to 6 months programs with on the job trainees. We've done a third level. So we've got the permanent employees, we've got the fixed term employees, and we've got a third level, which is, on the job trainees, and make sure that we are competitive in the market. The salary and wages are equivalent. So it's not that if you are an on-the-job trainee, you get paid some 2,000 or 3,000 rupees, because soon that job market will also disappear if you do not take care of them, like the way IHMs have gone. So that's the biggest change that we've done. We've realized that learning and development and skilling is in our hands. If we want alternate sources, we have to do that. And so that's primary one. Second thing is also to look at the intent and the perception within the industry, within the company itself, the industry at large and within the company itself. And I think 2 or 3 things that we very quickly did was never stopped any of our hiring, be it the STEP program, be it the OCLD program, or be it, even things like internships. So we didn't stop that through and through. We have a couple of growth opportunities like the executive development program, which is an internal program to become managers. We've got the supervisory development program, which is to become supervisors. And even when our hotels were lying shut, we were doing those programs. And we've just run 3 programs between 21 and nothing in 20, to be very honest. But 21 and 22, we've done 3 programs, each one of these. And we've got a lot of people who are graduating out. So we realized our supervisors, the minute the industry opened up, a lot of our supervisors left. Now again, the team leaders, if they in that between segment is gone, it's a problem. So these programs, so again, the intent internally was that the business is down, but we will look after you, we will give you growth. The third thing we did is that very early, as early as 21, when we were still in the red and we still weren't doing enough business, we looked at compensation. And I'm very proud and happy to say that at the junior levels, from anything between 20 to 40% increases were given. And what was our main motive? We looked at where our people were going. For the first time, we asked hotels to compare with retail, to compare with standalone restaurant chains, to compare with luxury brands. Now, have we really caught up with all of them? No, but we have really bridged the gap and come very close to a lot of these. So 21 and 22, 2 successive years, we've given our increments to our staff members, to our colleagues who come as a fixed term contract or third party contract or permanent, or our executives in the company. And I think those are the 3 things that we have looked at, one internally, one externally. And one also what we've done is looked at gender as a thing, because we've read a lot that the majority of people who left during this time were ladies and never to return back into the fold. And gender has played a very important role for our industry. We've been pioneers in many things. And I think, from giving them long sabbaticals to looking at leave without pays, or the ability to come back at the position and designation that they left even after 2 years, flexi hours are certain things we've been dabbling with. Now, why for a lot of our colleagues, it'll be like, oh, but we've been doing this. But I'll say for us, it's a big step because we've traditionally not done this. We've been a very, a kind of a conservative outlook when it comes to the way the industry, we handle manpower or we handle people in that aspect is concerned. So I think these are the things we've done really.
That's very heartening to hear, Shailaja, because when you talk about recognizing this migration out of our industry, I always challenge hoteliers. Should we always think that our competitors are poaching from us? It's actually other sectors who are poaching from us. And we've got to crack the code of how to bring people from those sectors into us. And therefore, when I can literally see how tag teaming with a platform like Job Plus can work for our sector, I think it's a real opportunity to bridge that gap. So yeah, very heartening, and at least we're able to hear what organizations are actually doing on the ground to address this problem. And let me now move it over to Yogendra. The same perspective, is it similar in terms of how Radisson as a company brand is approaching this, or are you doing some different things as well in terms of managing this talent crisis?
Broadly, I will say that the issue and the challenges are, of course, same. Wherein we feel that talent really is the core of business. It's COVID has just kind of expanded the gap and in a way kind of opened our eyes to look at it with more sense of urgency, right? But talent crunch has been an issue for quite some time in our industry, especially. For us, it is even more, it needs more attention and focus because of the kind of growth trajectory we have. In India, we are currently 108 hotels operating, and we are growing with the pace of 1 hotel every 30 days. And it will continue to be for next 4 to 5 years like that. So, we have opportunities of around 6 to 8 additional jobs in the country next 3 to 4 years. So that's the context, and that's where looking at a futuristic kind of option of managing talent is also something very, very critical to us. What needs to be done? Yes, I agree. There are 2-dimensional approach here which we should adopt to. One is definitely look at our own internal industry specific talent and see what can be done, right? Whether it is what are the ways to retain them? And second option and second way is to really look at the other unconventional approach of hiring talent from other sectors, and that's where probably there are many such initiatives which are, and many programs which are currently active, and we are part of those skill development programs as well. But what I feel largely, and this is something even Shalja addressed, there are three core issues, and till the time we do not address these three core issues, whether it is internal within the industry talent or whether it is the other external talent which we are looking at, which is outside the industry, may not be attracted to work in hospitality. So honestly, what are the three key issues? The three key issues are definitely, number one, the kind of compensation structure we have, right? What do we pay, and how we can really ensure that we are paying at par with other industries or other companies. There's a challenge because one of the highest costs of doing business is people. How do we balance it off? It's not that just increasing compensation will make the business sustainable. So there's a fine balance which needs to be created. Second key issue is, and one of the key need of our new, people who are looking out for job, or the new generation which is looking out for job, is not only a job, but more of the work flexibility or a kind of work-life balance. We are far away from, our industry is far away from creating such work-life balance, but we need to look at it in from a very different perspective, whether we can really create some flexibilities, both in terms of working hours, in terms of certain functions which can work from home. Because the reality is today we still have split shifts, break shifts in our hotels, right? So that's where it is coming from. So it really needs a lot of kind of reflection and probably a complete transformation in the way we work, which can only attract better talent for future. And third issue, which I have also seen, is the kind of empowerment and freedom we provide in industry for people to work, right? So I broadly see as these three key issues. And if we address these three issues, whether it is external talent or whether it is internal talent, I think we'll be able to kind of create a better value proposition for our people.
Well, interesting. You can see some fairly common threads across the challenges. So the takeaway is that whether you're an international brand, Indian brand, it's not as relevant as the crisis facing the industry together. And clearly, compensation, work-life balance. I'll just add one point before I move to Divya, is that the understanding of the demographic divide. We're on the one hand talking about a younger and younger workforce coming in, yet at leadership levels, it's still fairly static. And humans have a natural bias towards seeing everybody else in their own mold. So you have a general manager or even an HR director interviewing somebody for a job and looking at this young kid and saying, yaar, ye mere jaisa loyal hoga, iske liye job security important hai kya? Whereas that kid is looking at him and saying, which planet are you from? You've got to make me feel happy working for you, and excite me about that, rather than the GM or the HR director trying to convince him how great it is for him to join us, right? I think that demographic divide and the gap there needs serious addressing as well, which is where I'm coming from when I say continued learning for management and leadership is as important as training and skilling for entry-level staff. And on that point, I'm going to move to Divya. Divya, I think it'll be good if you spend the first couple of minutes really explaining to the audience a little more about Job Plus and the People Network. I mean, you guys are doing some really cutting-edge stuff, which the industry has never seen before. So it'll be handy to understand that in a little more context, and then talk about where you see at this skill level where the gaps are and what you're doing to address it.
Thank you, Dilip. I think some very interesting thoughts from Sharja and Yogendra and you too. So yeah, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about the genesis of the Job Plus. It was founded by Natwar Nagar, who has been a leader in the executive search space in the hospitality sector for decades now. I think one of the OG recruiters, as we say. So he founded People Network, but I think what COVID was really, shook the industry up. It was a time where we were receiving calls by the hundreds that, we need some job, ek week ka job, ek ghante ka job, the situation was dire at that point. And the idea behind the Job Plus was to create an equal opportunity platform where people can come and find opportunities based on their skills that they possess, right? And of course, during COVID, we started creating the platform and used it to help people find opportunities that would work for them in the short term. But once we're out of this pandemic now, right, and we're on that revival path, we also saw an opportunity that currently the dynamic has really changed. From employees trying to find jobs, we have now seen employers trying to find the right talent for them. So we thought, why don't we use this platform as a base to really connect the right people with the right talent? And the fundamental behind the Job Plus is that we value the skill. We don't really look at somebody from what experience, what background. If you have the right skill at the right time, you're valuable for that organization there and then. So that is the idea behind it. We assess candidates on our platform in a very 360-degree view. So behavior analysis, technical analysis, communication skills, analytical skills, e-verification, that basically captures the entire 360 persona of any employee or any talent that an organization would like to hire. So that is essentially where Job Plus is. And I think just picking up on a thread that you were talking about is that, the Indian tourism and hospitality sector is one of the largest employers in the country, one of the oldest industries that we have. Even pre-pandemic, we had started seeing the fissures in talent attraction for this sector, right? Roughly employing about 10 million people, there was already a shortfall of 1 million people for the sector. So we had started seeing that. COVID really was the great disruptor. Bringing it back to the branded hospitality space, right? Roughly 1,400 hotels, employing about just less shy of 2 million people. Today, the shortfall that exists in this sector is about 25% of people who have permanently moved out from this sector during COVID, and we don't see them coming back. Like Shailja said, predominantly that is made up of women who have taken up alternative employment, small businesses, micro businesses. Our talent has moved to allied sectors like retail, like FMS, and we don't really see them coming back. So this shortfall of 350,000 people that our sector is facing today is only going to keep increasing year on year if we don't really add to the future pipeline that's coming in. Look at that optimistic revival that our sector is facing right now. I mean, we're looking at jobs growing in the branded hospitality space at a CAGR of roughly 6% year on year, which means every year we need to add 80,000 to about 100,000 people to our pool just to service the new hotels that are coming up. Where is this talent coming from? Those 1,200 dream hospitality management schools, unfortunately, are not able to give us that kind of talent, right? So therefore, I think we're very grateful to have leaders like Shailja and others in the industry who've really introspected, who've really recognized the challenge and looked at alternatives. So I think at a macro level, 3 or 4 points that really come to mind of what we are doing and what we want to change. One is reduce the entry barriers to hospitality for the workforce. Your rank and file does not need to do a 3-year management course, learn a multi-cuisine French course to come and join as an F&B associate, right? Train them for one skill, do short-term skilling programs to attract the talent, and then build a very continuous upskilling, retraining program for them, a long-term vision that they see with this industry, right? Tie it into their career progression. Let them feel that every 8 months, every 12 months, it's a new challenge for me. I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. And I think bringing it back to the larger discussion we were having with the panelists was the brand as a talent, as an employee. What is the employer value proposition that I see? We need to drop those age-old narratives of long hours hair, tough working environment here. Yes, agreed. But it's also a very interesting place to work in. You're not sitting behind a laptop day in and day out, you're meeting new people. It's very exciting for this young generation. We need to flip that narrative now, right? And I think finally, tying into what Yogendra was saying, this is a passion for me to go into every conversation and really commend our general managers, our business leaders, some of the most astute, innovative innovations we've seen during pandemic for cost cutting, streamlining, optimization, right? We're carrying that forward yet. The manpower manning ratios have changed significantly in the industry. Can we not use some of these savings, put it back into the scales, pay scales for our associates? Let us now use some of these business savings when we are on the upswing to really build that future.
So it's very interesting you say that, Divya. I mean, one of the arguments with the industry, and I think Yogendra, you talked about it. Yes, you want to improve compensation, but yet it's the biggest cost. And so you've got to look at the margins and all that kind of stuff. And to Divya's point, companies spent the last 2 years getting themselves more efficient, and many of them privately will tell you how proud they are that the GOP margin increased 6, 7, 8% because of manning efficiencies. And yes, logically, you'd say that maybe 1 or 2% can be plowed back to pay better. And I think that needs to be. And the other thing, when you said flip the narrative, I genuinely believe that the industry needs to do a concerted image campaign. We've got to put ourselves out there. I see even today ads on LinkedIn looking for passionate individuals to be sales managers. I mean, get a little more creative with how you're trying to project your industry to be more attractive. Every industry wants passionate people. Right? What are you doing differently now to tell people that we are a very attractive employer? And I really wish the industry would get together and do that. We'll have time for one more set of questions, then I want to move on because the platform will have a lot of sales and marketing professionals in it. So talking about technology and its influence on talent. And technology probably plays a very big role on the one hand on the process improvement side, but as much on acquiring customers as well. And so if I wind back 3 years and before, a classical sales person in a hotel has a set of accounts, goes to customers, says hello, makes presentations, bids for RFPs or a conference, and then comes back and then goes back again. Whereas today, and through COVID, you could sit in your house and do that. Even the customer is not necessarily excited कि तुम मेरे office आ रहे हो. If we can negotiate a deal online like we're discussing right now, where hotels have fancy 3D presentations using virtual reality, using AI, all those things to be able to present their products and offerings, for the customer to be able to see that, continuously keep looking at that, and negotiate the entire deal. So my point is, what changes in terms of the skill set requirement? Do these salespeople now have to make sure that they have better developed non-verbal skills? Otherwise, salespeople were taught dress well, walk well, talk well, emote well, empathize well. But now you can sit in front of a screen and get a deal done. And so are the requirements of what skills you now need change? To what extent do you see technology enabling sales and marketing professionals to do their jobs better? And do you see a time when there will be a continued need to still have the human interface, because at the end of the day, we remain a people industry? And so this dilemma, technology, people, enablement, personalization, it'll be good to have comments from the panelists on that. I'll again start with you, Shailaja.
So I personally believe, and if I were to look at it, and I'll answer it in two parts. One from a sales and marketing perspective a little later, but before that, more from an HR perspective. I personally believe that while processes can be, uptake can increase, can be made more seamless where HR is concerned with technology, but I for sure believe that nobody can take away the personal connect. Because if we expect our people to, personalize things for our guests and know their preferences and know those things and talk to them, then the same rule applies to us as HR professionals and as leaders. I wouldn't even say just HR's job, but as managers and leaders. There are multiple times that a person chooses to resign, and I pick up the phone and I directly talk to the person sitting wherever, and I say, listen, are you in Delhi? Come over and see me, otherwise let's have a chat. And so many times you're able to switch it over, flip it over, only because you've taken the time to listen, that personal connect. And I think that's not going to go away from our industry. I, for one, am a huge proponent of that. I believe the touch points have to be there. I think a large part of why we are where we are is because for a long time, while we did have a huge employee base and we didn't have to worry, we sat in our rooms and we just took out policies without actually checking what the reality on the shop floor was. And I think we have to be conscious of that, and we have to ensure that we go back to certain traditional methods, which will never go away. That's one part of it. Second part, though we haven't really gone the 3D version, as you've said, and presentations. However, I personally believe you're right. It will have to be a kind of a combined effort of both. I don't see a lot of guests wanting to do away with the touch points and meeting the people. We did a survey recently, and we've done 2 surveys to see, should we remove our masks, etc. Should we ease up on our, and we asked guests, listen, you tell us, because you are our people. And a lot of people came back and said that we want masks to go, we want the gloves to go, because we want to see people smile. We want to see the eye contact. We want to shake hands with people. We want to meet people, because, we've been deprived of that, and enough of this. We want the touch points to come back. And if I were to just take from that particular certain sets of about 6,000-7,000 people were interviewed, guests were interviewed over, twice. I feel it's not going away in a hurry. So I think we will have to find a more agile sales force for sure. They will have to do a combined effort of both being in office and making those fancy presentations and ensuring that they get business there. But some touch points, some relationship building for you to be, be their top recall. Will have to be the relationship. Will have to be that connect. And I think it's both. It's a symbiotic thing. Both are, they'll have to coexist. That's my view.
Well, interestingly, when one looks at a market in India like Bangalore, let's say, highly corporate travel, RFP-driven market, the big Accentures, IBMs of the world giving you thousands of room nights and demanding last room availability and all of that kind of stuff. From what I hear from the industry, brands are going back to them and saying, you know what, I don't think we need to do any RFPs with you anymore. I don't think we want to give you last room availability privileges anymore. You have bar rates based on your volumes. You'll get a better below bar rate from us, all of those kind of things. It's all going to suggest that customer touch points for contracting business are going to reduce and are going to change. I think that's a reality. So I'll come to you, Yogendra, but Divya, I want to come to you. When you talked about skilling people and give them one skill at a time, in all of this, are you maintaining the fact that whatever level you're at, you need skills to be able to use technology? Even this associate, at some point in delivering service to a guest, will be using their fingers, whether you want to know about the guest preferences or whether you want to check him in on the go or whether you want to take his order on the go. So is that a key part of what you guys are doing when you're saying we're making these young employees more ready and we're educating employees to do this? And how much of this understanding of technology enablement is a part of the skilling requirements?
I think it's a very interesting question also that, given this day and age and given the generation that we're talking about, we're already talking about a very high level of technology adaptation in their day-to-day life.
Right.
This is not a generation where we need to actively teach them or make them comfortable with technology. They're born that way, right? We were probably the generation where we had to learn some of these things, right? They're born with mobile phones in their hands. But having said that, how much are we using as an industry to really skill them or to make their processes and all easier? To answer that, yeah, we are working with a very large edtech organization at this point to create a revolutionary product for this sector, where we're looking at a phygital skilling course, right? And by phygital, I mean the theoretical portion will be done completely online through LMS platforms using a lot of technology like 360-degree view, like AI, like metaverse, where they really feel that they're in the space of the hotel, using the cutlery, just when you think it's an online course, we're not just showing them a picture of a restaurant and the service that needs to be done, right? We'll be using metaverse to really make them move their hands and really learn. But again, having said that, this is a very touch and feel sector. So even after they get all of that knowledge, they need to actually come into the physical space to really test what they have learned, to adapt to a very person to person and how they react to consumers and to guests. But yeah, to answer your question, we are putting in a lot of focus on using technology because one, we're able to scale very quickly. We're able to reach a larger set of market that we previously would not have been able to do. And for every course that we're doing, we are equipping them, even at the entry level, at the associate level, to know those 3 or 4 softwares that they will immediately have to use. And these are pretty brand agnostic. It's the same thing that every brand is doing, right? So if you're at a F&B service level, you need to know how to operate your booking systems, your table management and all. So those are being put into that basic skill set that they're being trained for. The idea is to make them industry ready from day one, right? So give them those brand agnostic skills. Dilip, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm saying it's very interesting. Again, we're already beginning to do it at the skilling level. And I continue to worry that will this increase that demographic divide gap? Because if leadership, the F&B director may not know how to operate that table management system, but the associate has been skilled to do it. And as these younger people get more adept at using technology, my sense is they'll keep spinning webs around their managers. And if the managers aren't also equally upskilled, I think the challenge is going to be even more significant in a couple of years' time. Yogendra, last question to you. You spoke when we spoke last about how hospitality professionals have these transferable skills. Our soft skills, our communication skills, they're natural to hospitality professionals, both through their education and then with the amount of customer guest interaction we have. And that's probably been one of the factors why there's been a migration away from our sector, because there are other customer-centric sectors who are now poaching these people away. How do we address that? And how do we continue to develop these skills, but then retain them for our industry?
All right. So if you look at what are the kind of transferable skills we are talking about overall, because in hospitality, things which come naturally to hoteliers are things like, how to handle multiple tasks at a time, overall communication, the softer aspects of, handling people, be it, things like handling kind of difficult situations, attention to detail. I think these are the kind of skills which are there with hoteliers, and these are really sought after skills in many other service industries like retail, for example, hospitals, mall managements, cinema operations, which is a very, very attractive industry for our hoteliers. So I think that's where we are losing a lot of our talent because again, it comes back to the three core issues of what I spoke in the beginning. Ultimately that's the root cause, and somewhere we need to fix that. Otherwise, and when you talk about compensation, definitely if you do a comparison, these industries are paying much better than what we are paying to a junior staff who joins the hotel industry, be it the kind of work-life balance. They have very, very different ways of working. In hospitals, there are a lot of roles which are still automated and they can really work from home and so on and so forth. So I think if you look at all this, the crux of the matter is till the time we do not address those core fundamental issues of our business, we will keep losing talent to these industries which really have a very similar requirement in terms of skill sets. So my response to this is yes, it's been happening for a while, but it's kind of has increased further because we have really been very, very badly impacted during the COVID, and it has really dented the reputation for sure of hospitality. If we have to really it's time really to act and shake up. That's the submission I have in front of everyone. We really need to take some drastic measures to improve our overall approach to future.
I think the ball's in your court. It's really up to the industry to make that change, right?
Yeah.
But it equally is very pleasing to hear of all the work that is being done and at least what the plans are. I would just hope that the implementation happens sooner, because this talent pipeline is in jeopardy of drying up in the next 2 or 3 years if we don't actually call to action. So Sonia, is there any questions from the audience you want to put out, or any comments from you? I see Jackie Douglas is on the call as well. Welcome. So I think we've all said our pieces. Before you close, you could ask the panelists if they want to make any final remarks. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you. And actually, I will ask Jackie to just introduce herself or, her comments on what we've spoken about, because she's been party to many such forums across Asia Pacific. She is currently the president of HSMAI Asia Pacific and comes with a wealth of experience, a great supporter of digital products and all things revenue. So Jackie, your comments also, please.
Hi, everybody. This has been a really good discussion. I like to hear the innovative ideas that you've come up with on the panel. Maybe I can add a few more innovative ideas to your suggestions. I know in Australia here, one of the big brands here came out with a process where when someone applied for a job and they came for an interview, they could start today. So I think that it sounds weird, but actually, because it's so many people have got so many options for a job. If they come in for the interview and you can get them to start today,
it almost sounds
you can't
desperate.
lose them, right? You can't lose them to someone else in the next few days while you're waiting to get a letter ready and onboard them and everything. So I thought that was a really interesting idea. And the other one that we heard that was good was, which IHG did, where once you join as an associate at a property, then you're put into this system, and then you can actually apply for shifts at any IHG property around Australia. So that suits the type of people we have here, right, where we get people who come out and they're traveling for a year, and they can suddenly go from Sydney to Cairns, and they can just apply for shifts in another IHG, and they recognize their skills and what they've done and what work they've done, and they can straight away just apply for a shift and be on it tomorrow. And that's not just the frontline people, it's actually the revenue people and the marketing people who can go and travel around and take contract sort of pieces that are offered online at any property. And I thought that was an amazing and fantastic way to do things. So there's a couple more to add to your collection, but thank you so much for everybody's input. It's been really good.
I think you brought up a great topic which we didn't have time to discuss, which is what's happening with this, what they call the gig economy, right? These are all gig workers, and you're now talking about a large company like IHG creating a mini cohort of gig workers within their system who can travel to hotel. I think that's brilliant.
Right, you know, you same in India, right? There's different seasons, so you might want to be in the snow area in winter, but you might want to be, you know, in the Barrier Reef or in the, you know, somewhere else in summer. So you can travel.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
there
think
is
this
there is a
point,
great
yeah,
opportunity with the gig economy for hospitality as
yeah,
well. And I would
definitely.
be surprised if the Job Plus platform is not looking at it. I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
It's something
Maybe
which
that's an
is
idea for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, no,
It
it's
would fit in well. So it doesn't have to be the same brand. It could be across
Yeah, but
brands.
I really think this part about processing things quickly is actually a great eye opener, because consistently we've heard from customers they want to book hotels where the processing is faster. They don't have time for upteen negotiations and go through 20-page documents. So it's the same for employees. You know, if you make it easier for them to join us, then why not?
Actually, on a lighter note, Sonia, I think the way the industry is right now, if today somebody comes, we're happy to have them yesterday. So I don't think
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So take them,
yeah.
take them.
So yeah, just
In
come
some ways,
one, come
this
all.
in
Okay.
some ways, I think this come today and start your job today. You know, it shouldn't show signs of how desperate we are for people as well, right? It's still got to be
Yeah.
There's a fine balance, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of questions.
Yeah,
on
I
the-
was just going to read out the questions, but of course, so I don't have the name here. It says anonymous. Was wanting to understand in Madurai, would we be looking at a Radisson with occupancies in demand? I think that's for you, Yogendra.
Well, I think that's a developer's question. So it's probably not an HR person whether Madurai should have a Radisson. I think Radisson would like to be in every
Yeah.
small town they can
But
be.
yeah, I think you can reach Yogendra separately and he'll connect you to the right person who could answer that for you. But we do have another question, which any of the panelists can answer. 5 days working policy seems to be one of attractive privilege for an entry level talent. Could you please throw your inputs?
Well, I'll let the panelists answer, but the reality is that they're already talking about that they still have to do break shifts. So pehle break shifts band karo, phir 5-day week ka soch sakte hai. How can you even think about 5-day weeks? But the reality is in Australia, where I've also lived and worked in the past. I mean, whichever level you are, you work 40 hours a week, and anything more than that, you get significantly higher pay, and you'll always get compensatory offs to only make sure you finally work 5 days a week. That is what India should aspire towards over time. These changes can't happen immediately. I do know that at corporate levels, many of you do 5.5 days or 2 Saturdays off, and you know, some companies are trying to do it at other levels as well. But yeah, happy for Shailaja or Yogendra to comment on that as well.
So basically, about 6 years back, we brought in 6 offs a month for everybody, rank and file upward. Currently, what we've tried to do in 21-22 is do away with break shifts. And I would say we've achieved about 80%. I won't say that it's 100% there. But break shifts for some restaurants will always remain, especially if you're a lunch and dinner operation. It's going to be very difficult to have a certain set of people in the morning and some in the evening with them doing nothing in between. So that's going to remain for some time, but 80% success. Break shifts is what we've tackled in 21-22, and we've tackled it right down from the CEO. It was his ask and his need, and we felt that that's something that we should do away with. Long hours, hand on my heart, we are still doing 10 hours on an average. I don't think we've been able to reduce it further. We're still there, but obviously it's a question between what the amount of intake that we have, and if the intake is less, then we're not able to fill those positions in a hurry. So those are things which at least I know give me sleepless night, because they are on my things to do. How do we reduce that? So we are slowly getting there. We did put a proposal up for 5 days a week. But the general managers I thought they would kill me, because they said we are barely able to make ends meet right now. You get me more people, you take 5 days a week. So inshallah, as one would say, we shall reach there.
You shall read there. Okay, I have a question from Karishma saying, we should look at EdTech companies playing a bigger role in skilling hospitality professionals. What are your views? Who would like to take that?
I think Divya is already doing this.
Divya has spoken about
I
it.
think we
Because-
are partnering with edtech platforms to create
you mentioned.
skilling programs at scale, so that we're able to attract talent from the corners of the country. We're not limited to where physical infrastructure or training labs are, because our hotels are everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So why is the talent not being sourced from there? So definitely a lot of edtech companies are looking at this. But like I said, again, it's still a very touch and feel industry. So we have to find that balance that would work. We're still in experimentation stage. But I'm sure we'll get to that beautiful balance in Phygital, what we can do skilling at scale using these technologies.
Okay, thank you.
We're
I have
running out
this
of time. It's already 11:30.
Yeah, I have one last question. What our panelists say on the practice of not reverting to job applicants for taking out time to revert to them, irrespective of an individual being selected for the job role or not? I feel that this is also one of the key reasons for people moving away from the industry. So I think this applies to hotels, I guess.
Well, it is a problem. I think that's just good HR practice that you revert to a applicant, right? Whether you're
Yeah.
giving him the job or not. And if somebody doesn't do it, that's just poor HR processes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great, Sonia, we run out of time.
Yeah, I know. But do we have time for just one more question?
Sure.
Okay, somebody's asking from O'Brien RHG to share attrition numbers. I don't know whether you can share this.
High double digits.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting discussion in India looking to hire international talent, similar to hiring trends in the last few years in China, Thailand, and Indonesia. Sorry, I didn't understand what the question is. Okay, I think no more questions as of now. If any, please reach either of us, all of us here. We'll be happy to direct you to those who can answer these questions. And it was great having everybody here. Thank you so much for your time and effort, and special thanks to the speakers, the panelists, Divya, Mr. Puri, Shalja, Yogender, and Jackie. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in, and stay tuned. We'll have more coming up. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
very much.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks very
everyone.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.